how did you initially get into DJing? We kind of fast forwarded a little bit, but how did you initially? Were you an MC first, or did you always wanted to be a DJ?
Always wanted to be a DJ. I always wanted to DJ. There was a guy, I tell this story all the time when I talk about it. There's a guy named Artie Art, and I finally got a chance to get a contact for him because I wanted to speak to him. I got a contact for him through Red Alert, but we haven't spoken yet. But this guy named Artie Art used to be out in Foster Projects, and he was the first DJ that I ever sat in front of and watched. DJ. I've heard DJs, but back in the days in the club, the DJ be up the top in the booth, and they be somewhere you can't see them. You can never see the. You just hear somebody talking. It could be a tape playing for all I know. But it's a DJ up there. He's rocking, but you can't see him. But the way that a DJ kept a party moving, it was like, yo, I want to do this. But then I saw Artie Art. I actually saw what it entails to do, and I said, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? I sat there while people are dancing, talking, roller skating, doing whatever they got to do. I'm standing right at the rope in the front, just staring, like creepy staring, kind of like. He probably was like, "Yo, somebody get this dude out!" I'm just amazed at what he's doing and how he's keeping the beats going, how he's keeping the music going, how he's coming into the next song. And this is when you really had to have some real skill because you had to take records off and put them on and find spots on records and do all of this stuff. I was like, yo, he's doing like 9 million things back there and he's keeping it moving and the crowd is loving him. I'm loving him. Everything is happening. The reason we here is because of him. You know what I'm saying? If he stops, it all ends. It ends right now. If he said, I'm going upstairs, how little kids used to take their basketball because they didn't want to play. Game over. You know what I'm saying? So if he stopped, turn the music down, game over. It's like, yo, so he has the control right now, everything here. I said, that's what I want to do. So I hooked up with two friends of mine. They were older than me, names Wayne and Cyrus. And they bought turntables and I bought the mixer. And this is, remember, Summer Youth? It was Summer Youth.
Program.
I had a Summer Youth job. This is how I bought a mixer,
Okay.
And we all bought our pieces and then we put them together and then we started practicing, doing that. But I don't think they were as serious as I was because I wanted to practice every day. But they're a little older than me, so they like, we got girls up here. We do. I'm like, well, can I practice in there while y'all? They're like, chill, dude. Like, get out of here, shorty. But that's what made me want to do it. And then after a while, I ended up getting my own stuff, my own equipment. But it took a little while, and I started practicing, and that's how I became a DJ, and that's all I ever wanted to do. I really never wanted to rhyme. I never really wanted to be an MC, because at that point, that's when the DJ was the top thing.
It was the yeah.
He was just somebody to announce the DJ, to tell you who he is, to tell you how good he is. And, most MCs just rapped about the DJ.
Right,
now,
right.
It's a whole different thing now, but yeah, that's something else.
So once you saw Artie Art, right, to get the bug of wanting to be a DJ, though, who else became your influence as far as trying, like when you were trying to figure out your style, like what your signature was?
To Flash, and you start listening to Theodore, and you start listening to Coke LaRock and all. You had all of those. These are DJs. I didn't even like Hollywood. I never really knew Hollywood back then. I knew Hollywood as I started getting more into it, because Hollywood was like on fire back then. He was back in the 70s. So that was, I'm a child at that point, you know what I'm saying? So, but Artie was the first person I saw I could actually see do it, and I was close enough to see. But then you started listening to tapes of Flash and Theodore and all these other people that were on tape that were making cassettes, and you start buying them. And you start listening to it, and you start to emulate. You want to do what they doing. I want to cut Good Times the way Flash is cutting Good Times. I want to cut the way Theodore is cutting Freedom. I want to cut the way Apache is being cut by this person. And you got then you want to add your own flavor to it, and you start doing little things, and and then DJ started becoming more and more complex. With the tricks and all of that kind of stuff, and then it just became an art form. It was, I love it. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it to where, and it's still at the same time, this was not for money. We're doing this because we love it. Plugging into the lamppost outside, Who knew? You know what I'm saying? That, you know how dangerous that was?
Yeah, yeah.
You're risking your life out here. You know what I'm saying?
You know, it's funny that you say that though, because it seems like hip hop overall at that time was dangerous. Because if you think about, like you just said,
Right.
plugging into a lamppost, or the graph
Mhm.
artist going into the train yards, messing
Like
with
going
that
in the
third
train
rail.
yard.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, man,
Yo,
the
it was
things that,
danger all around you. You know, hip hop was really dangerous coming up.
yeah,
You had to really love it to put yourself out there for this kind of stuff, you know.
hell yeah.
Then you get
Right.
the parties where people shooting up the party and everybody's running and this and that, you know. But then that became part of the game, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, hey, you know, this could happen. It's still, you know, that's when your mother be like, I don't want you going out there. They be shooting out there, and then next thing you know, you out there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
You talked about meeting Doug, ninth and 10th graders. What were the initial conversations you guys were having as far as the direction you guys wanted to go?
we didn't really have any direction. We just knew we wanted to get on. You know what I'm saying? And we wasn't even talking about records and stuff then. We really just wanted to kind of get on in the neighborhood, you know, and just be and just do stuff and just say we want to uh, get in these rap contests, go to these different parties, let people know who you are, and do all of that kind of stuff. And then, you know, as we gradually went on, it started getting into making a record. We want to make a record and put some stuff together. So we actually ended up going to see Bobby Robinson to try to do our first record. You know, put our first records together and stuff. And he took us to the studio and you know, first time in the studio, so we don't know what we're doing. He's like, well, there's the machines. We like, what? What do we do? We never knew that, you know, you got to come in here and make the music. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
maybe it's already in here. Somebody just press play on something. We can give us a few things, you know. So we ended up having to learn how to program a drum machine and all that stuff right in the studio and make a beat. And Doug is doing the beat like this is the way it should go. It was, and he would play it on the machine and play the nah, we gotta add this. And you know, we don't really know what we're doing. So we try and, you know, put it together. But it was a little frustrating at the beginning, but eventually we kind of got into it because that was like my forte. Like I wanted to know everything about everything. I learned how to program every single drum machine that was out, you know, all the way up to MPCs to SB12s to I could program anything at that point, you know, and put it all together because this is like it's crazy. I was just into all of this stuff and it was just all amazing to me. And then a guy sold me a 808 for uh $12. You know,
Wow.
he had no idea what he had. And he tried to charge me $15. And I was like, I give you 12. And I gave him $12. He gave me an 808. Now, who knew what you had at that point? You know what I'm saying? I bought an 808 for $12.
That's crazy. Damn.
You know, we ended up making a record with them.
I
You
was
know,
just gonna say, what what hit did you make off of that?
we did a record called She Was That Type of a Girl. That was that 808. We used the you know, everybody back then, you know,
Yeah.
right now everybody's using the entire 808 from snares to kick, the whole thing. But back then, everybody just used the kick. You know, it was that
Right, right.
bong, that kick
Mhm.
on top of other beats. You know, and that's what we used that 808 kick on top of everything. That was really before sampling, so we had to kind of make it fit. You know, and all that stuff. So it was a whole, you know, production to get this thing done. But you know, we came up doing it, you know what I'm saying? So our conversations really wasn't about records until later on as we you know, we were about to get out of high school at this point. We're trying to make a record.
Right.
And,
Now you said you mentioned Bobby Robinson.
right.
He had a record store, right?
Right on
Wasn't it?
125th Street. Yeah.
Right, because I've heard his name come up a few
Yeah,
times
Bobby's been
throughout
in
the
this
years.
business a long time, man. He was in this business forever, you know.
Wow.
And then when rap came in, he jumped right on it. He was like, "Oh, let me get some rappers out here," because he put out Treacherous 3 first thing, Fearless 4, Furious 5. All of that
Okay.
was on Enjoy, which was Bobby Robinson's label before they was on any other label, you know.
Mm, okay.
So it
So
was like,
so you guys, a lot of the guys were familiar with him through the record store prior to him having the record label, or was it
right?
around the same?
Everybody knew about Bobby Robinson. Bobby
Okay.
Robinson was like the neighborhood. He was like the guy that if you wanted to get on, Bobby Robinson was going to get you on.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He was the person that you could go talk to about making records and stuff. And he would foot the bill for the studio and everything, you know. But back then, you know, footing the bill for the studio that seemed like a lot for us. But really, if you sell a lot of records, that wasn't really nothing because we ain't getting nothing for it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You spoke of Bobby Robinson. Was your first single over there, Just Having Fun in '84?
Yes, that was the first single. We called it Just Having Fun because that's what we actually did in the studio. We was just having fun because we don't know what we're doing. That record was completely a bunch of kids that don't have a clue of what they're doing. The engineer, I don't know who he was. He helped us a lot with programming the beats and doing this, and we would tell him what we want, and he would do it and program it and say, just hit this if you want a snare, if you hit this if you want a kick and hi-hat, and he kind of helped us, you know, put it together. So we would just call it, and then we were trying vocorders, and we don't know what none of this stuff is. We were just doing stuff, man. And then when we did it, it was like, okay, Bobby Robinson had enough because we actually in there playing now. You know, we trying stuff. You know, he's like, yo, this is costing me about an hour for y'all to be in here playing. You know, and let's say, okay, let's get serious. Let's do something. You know, even though we were serious before, but we was like, let's kind of nail down.
Tighten it up. Yeah,
tighten it up. And that was as tight as it get. Even though that record wasn't so tight, that's as tight as it was gonna get. Yo, there's mistakes in there. You can hear us talking in the background. Like, if you really listen to it, it's like, it's crazy, man.
Was Barry B in the mix at this time?
Early on, Barry wasn't with us. Barry was with another group called the Devastating Three. And Barry was an MC. He wasn't a DJ. He was a MC. And it was another guy that was the DJ for them. And we had a friend named Pop that went to school with us. And Pop took us to Barry house to say, yo, you got to meet this guy. He's nice and blah, blah, blah. And if y'all need somewhere to practice, because this is before I really got turntables and all that stuff. You know, I had pieces of equipment, but I had junk in my house, basically. You know, I had turntables that didn't match, that weren't really turned. Like if you hit the needle, it rejects back. Remember them needles that would go back?
yeah.
I had that, you know, kind of cut on that and, you know, all kind of stuff. So I just had junk in my house. Only thing I had that was of some substance was the mixer. You know, I had a Gemini mixer, and that's what I had bought with my summer youth check, you know. And then getting turntables was just a whole nother thing, but I had to wait for that. So while we were doing that, we ended up meeting Barry, and we could go over to Barry's house and practice because he had turntables and everything. So we used to go to Barry's house and practice with him and his group, which we met through Pop, you know. And that's then his group, as we got older, you know, they went to college. They all left and they went to college out of state. So Barry was kind of here by himself, you know. So we was like, yo, I mean, we can't just let Barry just be like, he's let us come practice. And so let's put him down with, you know, with us. And we end up putting him down with us. And then we move forward from there. And he's been with us ever since.
Right.
You know?
And he never wanted to rhyme once he got down with with you guys?
Now he was it was just basically Doug rhyming. Right. And he was actually, when we practiced, Barry would DJ. Barry would hardly ever rhyme. He only rhymed when he was with his own group, you know.
Right.
So when he was with us, we never really saw Barry rhyme. You know, he didn't really rhyme that much. He DJ'd more than he did rhyme. So when we went out, Barry was so good, everybody wanted Barry to DJ. So when we went to parties, it was like, oh, Barry B is here. Let's let Barry get on here. Barry gonna kill it. And Barry would get on and kill it. You know what I'm saying? And then there was this one guy, man, named Keith. And we would always go to his parties. Yo, he would never let me get on. Never. Always. But as soon as Barry come in, he get the red carpet rolled out. And I'm getting ready to step over the ropes with that. He's like, yeah, you can't come back here. I'm like, word, yo, we all came together. He's like, yeah, not you though.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy, man. We talk about that story till today.
Man, that's crazy.
I can't believe he wouldn't let me come in with anybody else. It was always Barry, yo, Barry's here, you know. Which you know, Barry was really good. You know, when I saw Barry, he gave me a whole different. He put a battery in my back because I was like, yo, I ain't been doing nothing watching Barry. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you call it, what I was doing, but it wasn't DJing. Barry, you know? Exactly.
What kind of reaction did you guys get when you dropped Just Having Fun in '84?
mediocre. It's okay. They doing something, whatever. What made the records really move a little bit more was we've always had a show. Like we've been performing way before the records, right? So we have been performing and putting shows together and stuff together to make it tight, so that when we do our stuff, and we even before we had records, before we did any of that stuff, we had a tight show. So we would go places and do a show or do a show or do a show. So when we did the record, it didn't really blow till after people saw us at the shows. You know what I'm saying? Once we did a show, and then you heard it on the, you get a little play on WHBI. We wasn't getting no major WBLS, Hot 97, them kind. We wasn't getting none of that. You know what I'm saying? We was getting WHBI and the little radio stations that would play hip hop, and then up in colleges that play hip hop. We would get that kind of buzz, and then people would call us for a show, and we would go do the show, and then the record get a little more buzz. But so kind of mediocre success. Nothing crazy. We didn't really get much out of it, except it gave us a vehicle to do stuff. That was all,
Right.
Cool.
Did you guys end up at Top Flight Records after that?
Top Flight?
Yeah. Did Doug do a Pass the Buddha over at one of the record labels?
Pass the Buddha was first. That was the very first record. But we didn't do that. Somebody else did that.
Okay.
So that was somebody calling us in to do the song. That was the very first time we ever went to the studio.
Okay.
That was our first in the studio, but we didn't do anything in the studio. So I never really say that's the first time we did anything, because see, this is what I'm saying. We went to the studio that time. The track is laid, the beat is done, everything's done. Somebody's telling you, put your rhyme here. That's what we saw the first time we went. The next time with Bobby Robinson, it's kind of like a empty slate, like a clean slate. So it's like, make your own beat and do what you need to do. And there's an engineer here to help you do what you do. He's like, well, we thought the track would be like it was.
Like it was before.
Right, it was already done. But yeah, that wasn't happening. So Pass the Buddha was a joint we did with who else was on there? Spoonie G and what's it? Spy V. Spy V was also on there, and that was our first time actually going to a studio to do anything. But like I said, it was laid out for you, and they just said, hey, okay, we need you to do 16 bars right here after this, and everything was laid out, But that was our first. That was actually the first song we were ever on.